I'll never forget the way my dogs looked at her that night. Hackles raised. Tails stiff. Eyes wide, locked on her every move. They weren't barking. They weren't growling. They were watching, with a tension I'd never seen in them before. And that's how I knew something was wrong. I just didn't know how wrong, not yet. It was a rainy Thursday evening, the kind that leaves the air thick and the road slippery. I had just gotten home from my night shift at the hospital. Exhausted, hungry, and emotionally drained, all I wanted was to shower and sink into the couch. My two dogs, Cooper and Luna, both golden retriever mixes, greeted me at the door with their usual excitement. But something was off. They weren't wagging. Their ears weren't perked. Instead, they kept glancing toward the living room, then back at me, then toward the living room again. "What is it, guys?" I asked, ruffling their fur. "Come on, I missed you." That's when I saw her, Sarah. Sitting on my couch, soaked from the rain, her face pale and eyes wide. She was my younger sister's friend. They used to be close in high school, and I'd met her a handful of times over the years. Always polite. A little reserved. I hadn't seen her in almost 2 years. "Hey," she said, standing slowly. "Sorry to just show up. I didn't know where else to go." I blinked, still processing the situation. "Are you okay?" She hesitated. "I just needed a safe place for a little while." That was enough for me. I nodded and said, "Of course. Sit down, I'll get you some dry clothes." Sarah didn't say much that first hour. She curled up on the far end of the couch, sipping tea, wrapped in a blanket. My dogs, however, never stopped staring. Not a threatening stare, just intense. Like they were waiting for her to make a move. It was unnerving. That night, I set up the guest room for her, but Luna and Cooper refused to leave the hallway. Every time Sarah went into the room, they paced. If she closed the door, they sat right outside it, tails motionless, eyes fixed on the doorknob. I kept brushing it off. "They're just being protective," I told myself. "They're not used to visitors. But dogs know things." Over the next 2 days, Sarah told me bits and pieces of her story. She'd broken up with her boyfriend a few weeks ago, a guy named Nick. From what she said, he'd been emotionally manipulative, possessive. At first, he just got angry when she talked to other men. Then he started showing up at her job unannounced. One night, he slashed the tires on her car. She tried to get a restraining order. The paperwork was still pending. And 2 nights ago, he showed up at her apartment, pounding on the door, screaming threats. She grabbed a backpack and ran. "Why didn't you go to the police?" I asked. "I did," she said softly. "They said they'd investigate. But until he did something, their hands were tied." I felt sick. Helpless. My dogs, however, were anything but helpless. That night, around 2 a.m., Cooper began to growl, a low, steady rumble that vibrated through the floor. I sat up in bed, heart hammering. Luna was already standing at the window, ears forward, eyes alert. Then I heard it. A metallic clink. Like someone fiddling with the gate latch. I shot out of bed, grabbed my phone, and crept to the window. A figure was moving through the yard. Hooty. Tall. Slowly making his way toward the back door. I barely had time to dial 911 before Luna let out the fiercest bark I'd ever heard. She charged down the hallway, Cooper right behind her, both of them snarling like wolves. Sarah screamed from the guest room. I shouted for her to lock the door. Then, crash. Glass shattered from the kitchen. He was in the house. The dogs met him before I did. Cooper lunged first, teeth bared, launching himself at the intruder's arm as he raised something, maybe a wrench or crowbar. Luna was on his leg, pulling, biting, growling like nothing I'd ever seen. It was chaos, barking, screaming, crashing. I grabbed the pepper spray from the drawer and ran in. By the time I got there, the man was struggling to stand. My dogs had him pinned. Blood ran down his forearm. He raised his face for just a moment and I saw him. Nick. Sarah's ex. The police arrived 6 minutes later. But the fight was over by then. Sarah moved in with her aunt the next day. Pressed full charges. With the evidence, the break-in, the injuries, the 911 recording, the judge had no choice but to approve a no-contact order. Nick was taken into custody and held without bail. The officer who took my statement patted Cooper on the head and looked at me with genuine admiration. You know, he said, those dogs didn't just protect your home. They saved a life. I knew that. I felt it. And I've never been more proud. In the weeks that followed, I watched Sarah slowly return to herself. She sent me a letter, handwritten, thanking me for trusting her. For believing her. And for letting the dogs keep her safe. She ended with this: people talk about intuition. Gut feelings. But your dogs, they just knew. Before anyone else. Even before me. She was right. Sometimes, love has pause and a heartbeat. Sometimes, the ones who can't speak are the first to sense the danger we don't yet see.